There's a humility in drawing that, I hate to say it like that, but charcoal's made of burnt sticks, and it's something that anyone can buy, and it is capable of producing any human emotion in the right hands. I mean, I like to say, you know you're a draftsperson when you could draw a teacup and you could make someone cry, or you could draw a teacup and make someone laugh. It's the way, it's not the subject matter, it's the way in which the artist draws it that has the impact.
The first time that I painted it was just something that was actually so difficult that it just grabbed me right away because I couldn't do it.
And they look horrified, like, well, you can't say that. Isn't it a matter of taste and opinion? That's actually, no, it's not. There are reasons why certain paintings are better than others.
If I'm making something that I think is good, but nobody else seems to think it's good, well, where am I then? Where's the work? How do I go forward?
If you're in the studio doing drawings, you're autonomous, and then you take film and it's so collaborative, but yet it's in the same vein running through it. Both have one thing that is very much in common, and that is stopping and looking at the world around you. Taking time to actually let it come to you, let it sit with it in this kind of quiet space where you have no agenda, but you're just experiencing what's around you. I started the sheep series about 10 years ago. I was teaching a comparative anatomy course. There was this giant herd of sheep. And the way that they interacted with the students and the way they interacted with me was just striking, and it just caught me. They stare back at us with such intensity that it makes you feel like you're caught in something almost. When I started to work, I realized that the scale of the sheep to the scale of the drawing, there was something wrong. And I couldn't really figure it out for a while, but then all of a sudden I realized I had been sketching sketchbook size, about like that, and photograph size, about like that. And all of a sudden I realized that's not how I'm seeing this, that's not how I'm experiencing this space. And the space I'm experiencing is these small sheep in this large world. And so it became very clear that I had to really push the idea of negative space. So the space that is unoccupied by anything, the sky, the background, however someone wants to read it, had to be pushed as far as it could be pushed. And there was this kind of minimalism that then all of a sudden clicked. And the more space that I had, the more negative shape above the sheep intensified the gesture of the sheep. The drawing paper is white to start out with. In the parts of the drawing that look like it's on black paper, it's not black paper, it's actually layers and layers of charcoal where I'm trying to work abstractly to get a kind of breathing, just to give it a different kind of presence that I don't think you could ever really get if I was working, say, on black paper. And then I bring in a lot of white pastel, erase away, add, it's just back and forth additive and subtractive until I start to see something. And one thing I discovered as a kind of shock and surprise is that they started to get this very high contrast sometimes that made them slightly eerie. And I didn't intend for that to happen, but when I saw it in relationship to everything else, it also contributed to this ambiguity. I'm pulled by my romantic side, which is that the sheep are so symbolic and significant in this other way of all the sort of cultural and religious symbolism behind the sheep. And then there's this intellectual side, which says we have these sheep looking back at us, and then we're watching the sheep being sheared. You don't know if the sheep are being herd or, you know, like the drawing, they loved each other deeply. He's reaching around and, you know, it looks like he's like hugging the sheep. You get a little bit closer and you see there's a blade about to go right in the belly. And it's really subtle, which was critical, but it also is, no, he's shearing the sheep But then you go to these other places and the viewer starts to become the collaborator in that sense that you made the work, but they're filling out the meaning more. And so there is this collaboration between the maker and the viewer.
Maybe it's a simple thing. It's just that you don't recognize what a landscape's revealing to you at first. So you decide to paint it. But a good painting does reveal its secrets slowly.
Painting the Place Between is a 1-hour feature documentary profiling 4 contemporary painters that live in Minnesota. They're working from one subject that I feel it's critical what they're working from because it's the thing that we all have in common. How our emotional calendars in Minnesota are tied to our land.
So I use a mirror. I can see the landscape upside down. And as soon as I do that, the space is activated. The space is very dramatic. The sweep going back to the horizon becomes very graphic. You see it, which leads me to believe that we do see that anyway when I'm looking at it the right way up. It's just that we've created a habit, or we've created a way of not really experiencing it.
The film, even though there's parts of it that are very quick, it is about getting into that place of their work and about how they actually really take large blocks of time to participate in that experience of looking at the world around them.
The idea of working from the same landscape over a period of time. I don't mean 6 hours, I mean 6 years. That's where you get to a point where you feel like you can say something through the language.
This is my version of a storyboard. It's not a typical storyboard that would be really linear, but it does talk about the treatment of the film. I made this after I had about 25-30% of the footage. And because I, again, like drawing, I sort of needed to get into it. And then I take this chunk of stuff and I needed to figure out what was my treatment really going to be? How was this going to be handled? How did I want it to visually look? And so that's when I started to, say, I want to see these faces, I want to see the work, I want to see the studio, work being made in progress, different seasons. The language that I'm using for the storyboards and the language that I'm using for the film, I really do feel is very similar to what I'm using in the drawing. In terms of knowing scale, thinking about rhythm, composition, pathways, curiosity, the way the eye travels through the image. And so both pictorial logics, they're kind of sisters to each other.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the State Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.